Everybody's craft space is totally unique to them, and I certainly don't have a craft studio or even a craft room. I consider mine a craft space because it's within the living area. But I thought it would be interesting for you to see how I store my mediums and why I do things the way I do. So I'd love for you to take a look around with me and just take some time to relax and look at some lovely art supplies. Hi everyone, Jane here. Thank you for watching my video today. A bit different today. I thought I'd give you a little tour of my craft area. And just to say that if it looks like I've got a lot of supplies or not a lot of supplies, depending on who you are and what you've got, I have been doing this for quite a long time, crafting, probably about 20 years. So these are supplies built up over a long period of time. Now, I do craft in the general living space, and this here is the cupboard under the stairs, which as soon as we moved in, we have a rented house, so we can't sort of do too much in terms of adaptations or extras, and we use all our bedrooms, so there is no extra space. So when we moved in, my husband said he would put shelves and things in here for me to be my sort of craft cupboard. So I recently put all my stamps into baskets because I felt it made them easier for me to use. Previously, they'd been in lots of drawers, and you will see that in a lot of my craft area that I do have lots of drawers, a hodgepodge. There is no IKEA matching units in my area. It's a hodgepodge of drawers and baskets that I've bought from various homeware departments, things I've collected that are like ice cream tubs that I've reused, all sorts, things that I've got secondhand off my children and other people. So, but I found that putting my stamps into these baskets has really made me take a fresh look at them and really start using them. Now, there is no real rhyme or reason to this cupboard. It's really just where things fit. So we utilised old shelves that we had in our previous house, old sort of cube units. This at the end is a cupboard. I took the doors up because the doors were in the way. And I do just like to try to group things. Now, in these boxes under here, I've got all my card blanks because I do commissions for magazines, and that is usually card making. I have my card blanks there, so I keep them all together. And because I did find they were getting a bit damaged, so now they are kept like that. And next to them is the canvases. At the bottom, you will see my lovely tin collection because I do have a problem with tins, bottles, and boxes. Um, I don't know what I can really say because some people are going to look at my storage and think, oh my goodness, how do you ever find anything? But I like to have a lot of things on open shelving that I can see. Years ago, I remember Jane Davenport saying on one of her videos that she loved to be surrounded by her products. It made her want to use them. And I am of that mindset. I like to have things where I can see them. If I can see them, I'm more likely to use them. Now, with my distress inks, they are in sort of colour families as they're stacked, but it does mean I have to search through them. But sometimes that's good because it means I look at things in a different way and think, oh, I wouldn't have chosen that. I have my mediums on display. They're not on display because they're in a cupboard, but they're there so that when I walk in, I can see what I have got. I do like having things in baskets where I can pour a whole basket down because I find that easier. So, for example, these are my acrylic paints, and I can pull the whole basket down, have a look through, or the whole box down, as I've got all my Deco Art fluid acrylics in the box. I've got all my Distress oxide sprays in a basket, so I can take the whole thing down at once and then look at all the colours and decide what I want. At the top of these shelves, I have my alcohol ink storage, so you can get specialist storage for some things, and then this is a real mixture of things that I didn't know where else to put them. Moving on to where I actually do my art and my crafting, and I do like to surround myself. Like I say, I'm limited in what I can do with regard to storage and space. So I'm hoping that I have made the most of what I've got. So I like to have flat units that I know I can stack something else on top of. These rolling carts I've discovered recently. I've always really loved them. I didn't think I had the space, but actually it works well because the unit that's behind that rolling cart, I don't use the drawers because it's my daughter who moved out. It's got a load of her stuff in it still, so I've turned it round and just use it for the top of it. I like to have the things I use the most really close at hand. So I have these are like stationery um, holders, I suppose. And my husband had some for some reason, and he's gradually given them to me. So I put all the things I use the most to my right because I'm right handed. That's what I'm going to be reaching for. I do not have a massive collection of alcohol markers. I have a set of the Illustrators by Spectrum Noir, and I have this set of a Hoo Hoo, which I bought because I wanted something a bit more extensive. And I love recycling pots and things just to have hold things like the Neocolour 2s and the scribble sticks. And I just, having that colour in front of me just really pleases me. Um, like Lindsay the Frugal Crafter also says, so I like to have frictionless crafting. So if I have things where I can reach them, literally I sit in my chair and on my left in front of me in these drawers, to the right of me, I can more or less reach out and grab anything I need. And that is how I need to be. Because if anything stands in my way, I will go and do something else. I am really very much a I sometimes call myself a bit of a lazy crafter, a procrastinator. Some people would say, if I can avoid, if something stands in my way, I'm going to go and choose an easier option. I am that bad. So I have to have things where I can reach them, and I do try to keep things organised in groups. So this is all my embossing, not all my embossing, well, I think it's nearly all my embossing powders, to be fair. All my main embossing powders that I would need, my ink to use with them, my anti-static bag to use with them, all in one place. On the top here, I have got foam pads in my little pot, and then I've got my Kuretake paints all together. Now, I love them in those boxes, and so I've kept them in the boxes. I don't see a problem with having them there. Now, stencils were another thing I used to have an issue with. I had them all in all different sorts of storage. This is by far probably my favourite way of storing my stencils, and it is in a folder. You pick these up cheap in stationery stores, and just having them there to flick through. I don't have one per like sheet, so to speak. I try to group them again. So grouping things for me, as I'm doing this video, I'm realising how much of a grouper I am. I like to group things. So I put all like maybe the letter stencils together or the number stencils together so that I have a vague idea where they are. I don't know if you're meant to store watercolours like this. This is how I store mine. I don't have a massive collection of watercolours, but this is, how I like to store them. And any time I've made a swatch chart, I just pop it in the side of these sort of, they're not quite baskets, they're sort of tubs. A lot of mine come from The Range, which is a UK store. They do a lot of storage. I love little drawers. I love little drawers because they stack. You can stack things on top of them, and that is what I need. I haven't got the wide space, so I need the vertical space. And I put my gelatos, and I tend to colour coordinate as well, just to make things easier. So I will generally put, if I'm going to split my colours, I'll split them into the warms and the cools roughly. Again, I have a pot with my essentials. So my scissors that I use all the time, craft knife, bone folder, pokey tool, little brayers in case I need them, all the things that are sort of essentials. I really apologise for dodgy camera work. This is why I had to do a voiceover, because I couldn't do the camera and talk at the same time. Now, this cart was a hand-me-down from one of my children. who didn't need it. It was being used for books, so I said, "Oh well, I'll have that." And actually, a lot of what's now on this was on my table, so it's just moved it to the side for me. And I love this. The top of this cart fills me with joy. It's got all of my pens that I use on a regular basis. It's got my paintbrushes. So in one pot, I've got the ones I would use for acrylic paint and mixed media. And in the smaller pot, I've got my nicer watercolor brushes, the ones that I don't want to get damaged so much. You might see with some of my acrylic brushes, I am brutal with them, but my watercolors are protected. So that's my top layer. That's the colourful one. This is where I keep my pencils. I've got the oil pastels on there, and I've got little tins. I tried not to overfill the lower shelves because they're harder for me to get to. And on the bottom, I've got some of my handmade journals, my smaller journals that I've made myself, and they'll keep again in a basket. I love keeping things in baskets. It just keeps things together. You can just take a whole basket and put it out. It's easier. Now this is my other cart. This one I got very, very cheaply in I don't know whether Lidl and Aldi are worldwide, or are they just UK and Europe? I'm not sure. It was one of them. Aldi. It was Aldi. They had these carts really cheaply a while back, and I grabbed one. It went together a bit dubiously, but it worked. So I have all my collage books in here. So they are right to my right. They are there. I can grab them. I can flick through them. I've also got my sort of the books that are for looking through for ideas and things like that. They used to be out in the hallway, and I've moved most of them in because I wasn't using them. Then on top of this unit in the corner, which is housing my daughter's stuff, but it's hidden, I've got my Dilutions journals and other journals. And you will see I have a lot of journals, and I will not make any apologies for it. I use them. I use all my journals, but sometimes I want a small one. Sometimes I want a big one. Sometimes I want watercolor paper. Sometimes I want mixed media paper. I don't have an issue with having lots of journals. I've got a store of them. And then in the middle, I have all my pens. And again, I have them so that they are in warms and cools. I have them stored upright. Now, I know that may be a bit contentious for some people. Some people say you should store your markers horizontally. I haven't got the space. I just haven't got the space to do it. If I'm going to use things, I need to have them how I can grab them. I also, again, I have them in pots, so I can just take a whole pot out. It might look a bit crowded in some of these drawers, but believe you me, they are organised so that I just have to move one thing and I can grab another thing. And again, I group things so that I can grab them easily. So I know that in that basket, it's acrylic paints, chalky acrylic paints. So this is just my final sort of look around to my area. I do have I tried to buy a chair that was a bit more ergonomic for me because I do suffer sometimes with my back, and under my desk I do have this like puffy thing, comfy thing you put your feet on, again to try and make me sit properly because I am a terror for not sitting properly in my chair. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it wasn't too slapdash and manic. I just feel that you should do what suits you. This suits me. It has to be frictionless, it has to be easy, and it has to be where I can grab it. So thank you ever so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, do please give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, I'd love it if you could do that. And until the next time, bye bye.